Hi everyone. So today we are examining the energy stability and market reliability of America's domestic energy network. First, we recognize that the following energy distributors are the most unreliable in terms of sheer amount of energy loss. GW, which had a total loss of around 35,000, Auricon, which had lost 30,000, Milk, which had lost 23,000, PMC, which lost around 15,000, as well as Coligar, PJRH, and Coral, which each had above average losses. These companies have consistently lost energy due to the sheer amount of mass forced outages that it failed to prevent. On the other hand, ENRG and EUCT, which is somewhere down there, they both are unreliable in terms of outage duration, meaning that these companies allowed outages to continue on for many days before taking corrective action. Specifically, ENRG took around 16 days of outage duration, while EUCT took about 10 days of outage duration, at least in 2016. Additionally, most outages in the past 2 years have been forced outages right here. And so with 65% of outages in 2016, while in 2017 it was 75%. In other words, 75% of our outages are the forced type. Now, due to the amount of unreliable companies, as well as the average days of outage duration, the demand for energy may likely exceed the amount of energy supplied and thus cause extreme stress on the domestic energy system. Lastly, we attempted to find periods of consistent forced outages in an attempt to determine the best time to initiate counteractive measures. We noticed that outages rise during February, have a growth trend around June and August, and then rise again either in October and possibly November. It's just around that middle portion of autumn. Now, on this slide, we look at the composition of outages and how each type differs. Now, on the chart on the upper left, we see that the majority of outages are the forced type. I mean, when you look at all four, not even close. None are not even close to the forced type. And so, again, as previously mentioned, the sheer number of forced outages is a red flag because it's very likely that the domestic energy network can be stressed to the point of unreliability. The fact that 75% of outages are the forced type signals that AEMR has to take decisive action in order to correct the issue. However, our analysis isn't all bad news. On the chart on the bottom, we see that the average outage duration is 813 in 2016, which is about 14 hours. And while that's certainly a big portion of one day, it doesn't take weeks like scheduled planned outages on the bottom. Additionally, the amount of power lost from forced outages, it's relatively comparative to consequential outages. And so at least the loss energy-wise isn't too bad. But remember, because when you have a lot of forced outages like we had in the past 2 years, the amount of energy loss will add up over time. Additionally, if we compare 2016's numbers with 2017 numbers, if you saw that kind of growth, that means that the amount of forced outages increased during 2017. And again, if you draw your attention to this chart on the upper right, again, there's a growing positive linear trend. So yes, the amount of outages, forced outages, unfortunately did grow within 1 year. And so again, that means we really need AEMR must find a way to reduce the amount of forced outages. And to do that, you're going to have to push your energy providers to be more reliable. which is what we're going to talk about in the next slide. Here on this side, we assess the reliability of energy providers. On the chart on the left, we see GW, Auricon, and Milk. They're the top three, highest in terms of the sheer number of outages. Especially it's for the 2016 year. Look at that, 400 for GW, and so that's an issue. There were other ones too, like AUXC, PJRH, Thermos, PUG, Coral, PMC. These are all problem areas that we should look at. If we compare it to 2017, right? Again, Aerocon. Look at that. It almost, I would say it doubled in size. GW, luckily it went down, but that's 270 outages in a year. That's still an issue. But Auricon is definitely a driving force, and it really needs to be investigated. If you look at Thermos and PUG, it was relatively okay in 2016, but again, watch these two again. Boom. And so we need to at least investigate why did it suddenly increase massively, I would say, during those years. I mean, it's not as massive as this one, obviously, but it's something that we really need to. What happened in 2017 that made the numbers increase like that? Now, on the chart on the right, let me put it back to 2016 numbers. Immediately, ENRG just stands out. The fact that the average duration for an outage is 15.71 or at least 16 hours. That was definitely skewing our numbers in the first slide. It shouldn't take this long to fix an outage. And so we really need to step in and push ENRG to fix it. Here, EUCT, yeah, that is a problem. 5.9 hours. Not 5.9, sorry. That's like 9 hours. The bars, so for context, the bars represent the duration in days. The numbers next to it represents energy loss. So it's a bit confusing. But I think one chart just shows it all. If you notice the other numbers, Colgar, 149, way too much. Just too much. This is pretty big. PMC, another problem area, again, 131, way too much. The other ones are relatively okay. They're around the 50s. Coral, remember that was a problem. That's a bit big too. Yeah, okay. So now you have 2016. Compared to 27. Now let's compare it to 2017. Let's see what happens. Boom. So at least ENRG, they kind of fixed the amount of duration. That's good. EUCT, that's a big difference right there. Very good. So that's why I'm saying EUCT, it may not be as bad because at least they got their, they got their issues together and addressed the issue. Milk, though, again, one of the top 3 problem areas, it took longer. I mean, almost 5 days, as well as 58 in terms of energy loss. That's not good. So we have this here. At least when it came to energy loss, a lot of it went down. But again, Milk is a problem. Coral is a problem. PGRH, GW, remember that was also one of the problem ones, and Colgar. Okay, so in order to make things clear, I'm going to just reiterate which ones are the problem childs that we have to fix. So again, that would be obviously we have Auricon. Like this bar, not good. Auricon, GW, both here and here, big. So again, a lot of outages, a lot of energy loss, not good. Milk. So these are the top 3 right here. Milk. I mean, at least Auricon, it doesn't double here, but this sheer amount is not good. Milk, definitely, it's on both, a trouble for both areas, or all three, I should say. PJRH, it's a problem for both. It's not as bad as the big three, but it's there. CallR, I would say, it's pretty bad. It's on both. I mean, here it's okay, but it did appear on both slides. Or not both slides, both visuals as problem areas. Coral also appeared on both. But again, top three, Oricon, GW, Milk. You know, those are big problems. E and RG, at least they kind of work together, but we can at least, if we go to them, we should say, hey, you know, we didn't like the amount of hours in 2016. We're glad that you improved in 2017, but you definitely need a lot more improvement in terms of outage duration. So, you know, again, I need to stress, in order to ensure that the domestic energy network can run reliably, AEMR has to take action against these specific companies, specifically Oricon, Milk, and GW, or else the energy network just can't run efficiently. You know, it's going to be unreliable. It's not going to work up to par, you know, because I mean, people are relying AEMR on their energy distribution, and if they can't do it, you know, it's going to cause problems. All right. Now we examine frequency of outages as well as identifying trends where AEMR can at least anticipate or possibly counteract periods of outages. From all three charts, we see that there's a spike in February. So here and again in here. So there's a spike in February for both years. And in fact, as I mentioned in the first slide, February represents the highest outage in 2016. And so, again, February, plan for an outage, basically. Or plan for lots of outages. It did decline in March and April. Good. But then there's a small growth trend in around the around the June, July, and August. You know, I mean, here in the 2016, it kind of fell back in August, whereas here it rose. So actually, this one starts more around May. But May, June, July, August, a bit of a growth season. But in both years, they dipped in September. And then here, it's not perfect, I know, but at least around the autumn season. So October, November, it will rise again. I mean, I know it's switched on both years, but again, expect a rising trend again. So again, to reiterate, February, without a doubt, it's going to peak there. There's a growth trend around the summer season, and there's another, I would say, another peak or another rise around the mid, possibly early autumn period. So I mean, why is it trending this way? Well, I mean, obviously, like for February and autumn, you know, those are kind of cold season. I mean, usually we think of December, but December it kind of varies. It fell in 2016, the outages, but it rose in 2017. So I can't say there's a trend there because obviously there are different numbers. But for February at least, you know, people are probably using their heaters in February, probably in autumn as well. It's getting cold. And then again, there's this growth trend that occurs during the summer season. And so, you know, people are using their air conditioners, fans, whatever. That's going to put stress on the electric network. So, you know, what I'm saying is that AEMR should anticipate these outages and hopefully take corrective measures in order to provide more electricity in these trending months. By taking corrective measures, AEMR can help ensure that the electricity network can function reliably during these peak months. Also, and one thing I want to point out in order to really reiterate my point is that if you notice the chart on the chart, you know, if you look at these two charts, this chart and this chart, This is this big line, orange line, is the force type, whether it's 2016, 2017. And you notice that the chart on top basically has the same shape as the forced chart on the bottom. And so this is again, it's reiterating that forced outages are the driving factor. So you see what I'm saying? So AEMR, they need to find a way to wrangle in forced outages, because forced outages should not be driving our outages. I mean, it should be scheduled or planned, or consequential is also acceptable, but not forced. And so again, AEMR has to find ways to keep their forced outages in check. Otherwise, it's gonna drive it like it does here. All right. That being said, that's my presentation. Thank you.